the hell? My God. A large wrist? Imagine what I could wear with that. Sadly, some of us will always be stuck with a skinny wrist. Luckily, there is one type of watch that won't necessitate an arm transplant: field watches. Indeed, these casual military-themed pieces are versatile in both style and size, with many available in smaller diameters that suit even the narrowest of arms. So I've cherry-picked the best small field watches that are both wrist and wallet friendly. All of these are well made, retail for under $500 at the time of recording, and are affiliate linked in the video description for your convenience. While I purchased several of these with my own money, others were provided by brands or retailers either for this video or for previous ones on the channel, so check in the video description for the full details. Now, let's begin. The best cheap options are those from Seiko subsidiary Lorus. I've covered this cheeky pair on the channel before, as they offer fantastic value, especially if you're new to the watch hobby. The better of the two, in my opinion, is the Titanium model, which now goes by the codename RG877CX9 following a minor cosmetic alteration. It's just as comfortable, durable, and more legible than its predecessor at the cost of some style points. You can grab it in cream or green depending on your taste. Its steel brother, the RXF41AX7, can usually be found for even less money, boasting a similar level of build quality and a full Lumi-Bright dial that looks radioactive when the lights go out. Due to this coating, the dial doesn't look quite as pleasing as the Titanium watch, but the specs are solid nonetheless. These both have 37mm cases and offer 10 bar water resistance ratings, meaning they do everything a field watch should at an affordable price. If you're willing to venture out of your comfort zone, then the Alba range, also produced by Seiko, offers similar alternatives that you can purchase via Japanese dealers such as Discovery Japan. Some offer even better specs, but they will take longer to ship. Another pair that have battled it out on Ben's Watch Club is the Bulova Hack Automatic and the Hamilton Khaki Mechanical. These pieces are essentially reissues of mid-20th century field watch designs, with each brand having firm historical ties to the US military. At around £160 or $200, the Bulova is the more affordable of the two, and is perhaps the most committed to the vintage illusion, with a heavily domed crystal and a black cathedral handset that shares some green tinged luminescence with those outer markers. The original hack watch provided to the armed forces in the 1940s was one of the first to boast hacking functionality, whereby the second hand stops when you unseat the crown, allowing for more accurate synchronization. The Miyota movement within retains this feature and has an added automatic winding rotor for ease of use. While this does result in a chunky watch, it's kept in check by the steep lug angle and modest 38mm diameter. Basically, it's more wearable than you might think. While the dial is rather simplistic, it's been executed very well with a clean yet retro font choice and a lovely creamy dial color that makes it look like a perfectly restored antique model. Overall, it's great quality for the money, despite the low water resistance, and even the darker version is worth a look. The Hamilton is the better known of the two, receiving critical acclaim and substantial adoption from collectors following its 2018 re-release. It's not hard to see why either, as this is probably the most attractive field watch on the market today. Despite sharing the same overall goal as the Bulova, the Hamilton takes a different route to that destination, resulting in a refined end product that combines modern and vintage design cues. While much of the dial is similar to some budget field watches of days past, the Hamilton exhibits an excellent level of finishing and inking, with every part presented in a perfectly proportioned manner. Even the tone of the faux patina lume appears to have been selected to remain appealing to modern taste buds, with a pleasing amber radiance that works surprisingly well in combination with a more modern white backdrop. The Khaki Mechanical is significantly slimmer than the Bulova, with a mere 9.5mm thickness, including the lightly curved crystal, so it will slip under long sleeves far better. The rather large lug-to-lug length of 47mm gives it more presence than the 38mm diameter would have you believe. Therefore, this piece best caters to those with a smaller than average wrist size rather than a tiny one. Powering the Hamilton is the hand-wound H50 movement, based on the ETA 2801-2. This unit's got a reduced beat rate, but boasts a significantly larger power reserve of 80 hours, giving you far more flexibility when it comes to winding. It's this compact engine that allows the Khaki Mechanical to remain wafer thin. There's also a variety of other sub 40mm field watches in the Hamilton Khaki range, many of which offer dressier looks and automatic movements. I'll also link a few of those below in case you fancy something a bit more exclusive at a slight price increase. You'll notice the Timex Field Post Mechanical looks suspiciously similar to the watch I just mentioned. Indeed, it seems the designers at Timex sought to replicate the success of the Khaki, as this newly released Expedition North model bears more than a passing resemblance with a near matching dial and colour scheme. This is especially evident when comparing the white versions. While it may lack the elegance of the Hamilton, it's still got enough going for it to warrant a spot on this list. Primarily, it's a real contender in the spec department. It features a solid 100 meters of water resistance, a hacking mechanical movement, and a sapphire crystal. The steel case is built well with a nice blasted finish and a hefty screwed rear that inspires confidence in the piece's durability. In some ways, it's also more wearable than the Hamilton due to the shorter lug-to-lug length and the more obvious taper. Rather unexpectedly, the stock leather band is also among the better ones on this list. It's thick without being ungainly, wears in quite well, and even features quick-release tabs for speedy changes. It shares many of the design cues of the Hamilton, so it retains much of that handsomeness, though it is held back by the stubby handset, with the two bigger hands falling short of their intended targets. The flat crystal is also less sophisticated, though some may consider that a worthy trade-off considering its price tag and the aforementioned upsides. While the Field Post Mechanical is decent, I think the 36mm version is the superior choice for small wrists. Unlike its larger 38mm brethren, this one packs in a solar quartz movement, which is inherently more practical. It's accurate, the battery never needs changing, and it also doesn't need winding. Fortunately, Timex has taken it upon themselves to add a threaded crown here, which gives added confidence in aquatic scenarios. Due to the reduced size, this variant is not only lighter, but also has a smaller dial, which simultaneously alleviates that curtailed handset issue present on the mechanical version. It's built just as well, retains the sapphire crystal and strap, comes in two slick dark colorways, and is priced at around $60 less. Overall, it's one of the best Timex watches I've come across. I just wish there were a few more cosmetic variants to choose from. With one of the smallest diameters on this list is a gem for those with slim wrists. There are also a few other Timex watches that are worth quickly mentioning, right after this message from our sponsor, WatchCrunch. Built by fellow watch nerds who grew tired of the negativity and blingy flex culture on other platforms, you know which ones I'm talking about, WatchCrunch was made to promote better, friendlier watch discussions from the ground up. On watchcrunch.com, you'll find a huge variety of watch content, including reviews, articles, pictures, videos, Q&As, and more, with their team adding additional content and features all the time. I reckon this sort of product has been needed for a while. Loads of existing forums use clunky, outdated interfaces that are a train wreck on mobile devices. WatchCrunch, on the other hand, is extremely easy to use, no matter what screen size you're viewing on, and your contributions are even rewarded with beautiful badges that you can display in your profile. Customize your feed by following particular brands and tags, make new horological finds with the ingenious Discover tab, and engage with like-minded watch lovers from across the globe in the comment sections. It's free to use, and you'll be set up in a matter of seconds. Sign up now using the link in the description. On the extreme budget end is the Timex Expedition Camper. This watch used to be insanely cheap. Not quite so much these days due to rampant inflation, but it can still be had for around $30 in the US or £30 in the UK. I'd probably save a few pennies and go for either the Lorus watches or the Weekender that I'll mention in a moment, but if you're on a strict budget, then the Expedition Camper is a suitable cheap choice that is very giftable. Like most pieces at this price, the camper is constructed of resin and houses an acrylic crystal, meaning it will simultaneously survive impacts and accrue scratches. With a 37.5mm case and a 44mm lug-to-lug, this one wears very small and is relatively comfortable on that default nylon Velcro band. The dial design is surprisingly fresh too, with a great typeface and a clean colour palette that enhances visibility, matching the strap in the process. Though it's only rudimentary and has a prominent tick, the camper packs in some unexpected elements, such as 100 meters of water resistance and the popular Indiglo backlight, making it a more tempting pickup than the online listings would have you believe. A step above that is the 38mm version of the Timex Weekender. This watch is very popular among first-time collectors, with its fun, casual aesthetic and a huge variety of colours. It's not as good quality as the Field Post watches I mentioned earlier, with mere chromed brass construction, though it is much more affordable, retailing for just a chunk above the Expedition Camper. The Weekender feels much more substantial than the Camper and does feature a more mature design. While it also has the Indiglo function, it carries over the loud tick and falls short in aquatic performance. This one looks great on the wrist though, which is what counts, right? A better, albeit rarer piece comes in the form of the 36mm Timex MK1 Mechanical. At the time of recording, availability is sporadic at best, so ordering from abroad may be your only option. This release flew under the radar due to the early pandemic pandemonium. However, it looks fantastic, feels great on the wrist, and avoids the short handset problem on the larger Field Post Mechanical. The MK1 provides a more vintage feel than the rest of the Timex Field Watch lineup, and uses an acrylic crystal to help achieve this, which will scratch up over time. A tube of poly watch is therefore highly recommended. I like how the lugs retain their thickness right the way down, as this conceals any space beneath, which helps the watch look more proportional for bony wrists. It's one of my favourite options here. It's just a shame it only comes in green, as this will look epic in a few alternative colours too. There's also an identically sized quartz version called the Camper MK1, just to make things more confusing. But that one is only constructed of resin and is on par with the Expedition Camper, which uses the same material. For more of that military, field/pilot watch hybrid, the Seiko 5 SNK800 series is a steadfast choice that's been highly recommended for the best part of 20 years. Each colour has a slightly differing codename, but aside from that, the 800 series is functionally identical across the board. This 37mm beauty is one of the most symmetrical on this list, with a recessed crown that snugly tucks away at a moment's notice. The major point of concern for this fan favourite is availability. Seiko is in the process of culling their older models, and these SNKs are well and truly on the hit list following the release of the SRPH models that offer the same general aesthetic. If you want one of these slick Seikos, it might pay to act quickly. If you're not too bothered by the marginal size increase, then the 39.2mm SRPH watches are also worth considering. I won't dwell on these for too long as they lean even more into the pilot's watch theming, but they improve upon the SNK series in numerous ways while still falling under that generic military banner. The SRPH watches have better finishing, upgraded movements, and improved dials that showcase brighter colours and greater attention to detail. The stock canvas strap is also of much higher quality with no rough edges and a smooth inner lining that hugs the wrist softly. At around $200, this one is costlier than the old Seiko 5s, but unlike the SRPG that I reviewed last year, the SRPH is a much more compelling overall package. Citzen has taken a similar approach in the form of their BM8180. This one's been recommended to me for years now, so I've finally managed to try it. This also takes cues from both the field and pilot watch genres, and it looks quite distinct from the majority on this list, possessing skeletonized hands and a large inverted triangle at the noon position. The case shape is also more circular, with the angular lugs jutting out from the center, giving this 37mm Citzen somewhat of that large dial appearance within a small package. With a 43mm lug-to-lug length, this one will fit just about any wrist out there, something that can't be said about the vast majority of Citzen watches. Standout features here include the solar eco-drive movement, which is known to be among the best in the industry, a reliable 100 meters of water resistance, and a generous application of long-lasting luminescence. I don't think the stock band is quite as bad as some reviewers have made it out to be. It is a little weedy, but does come with a thin leather inner to prevent chafing, and metallic reinforced holes to aid the long-term durability of the fabric. Nevertheless, this watch does have its downsides. While different, I wouldn't say it's particularly sexy. The flanks exhibit a mediocre level of polishing, meaning it looks lower quality than some similarly priced alternatives, and scratches may be more evident here versus other watches on this list that use blasted or brushed finishes. The crown also juts out quite far and has a tiny recess that actually makes it very tricky to unseat, even with my stick-like fingertips. Still, if you like the unique look of this Citzen, it's still a great pickup with excellent appraisals across the board. A true tool watch from the ground up, the Boldr Venture is built with one thing in mind: durability. This spec juggernaut featured in my top 10 best watches in Ben's Watch Club history video, flexing a Seiko automatic movement, a sapphire crystal, a 200-meter water resistance rating, and full titanium construction. While the dial is no more complex than some of the cheaper options on this list, the Boldr is definitely the best constructed, with a durable, bulbous case shape that incorporates hooded lugs and a tremendously grippy crown. It's even got a high-quality strap with titanium keepers. Low-light performance is also excellent, and the Venture comes in a substantial number of colours and variants. Keep in mind that this watch is chunky at 12mm, so substituting the stock 20mm NATO style strap for a two-piece alternative could be the way to go. The default band boosts the on-wrist thickness to a whopping 16.5mm, so something that avoids passing underneath is definitely optimal. The remaining dimensions are favourable, with a 38mm diameter and a 44mm lug-to-lug, making it fairly wearable for large and small wrists alike. The perfect option for the thinnest of wrists, or those after mid-century proportions, the Marathon general purpose field watch range comes in at a mere 34mm in diameter, the smallest of all mentioned today. While true to the traditional field watch design, most of these Swiss-made watches come with a unique twist in the form of tritium tubes, installed on the hands and within the chapter ring as markers. This radioactive gas isn't strong enough to penetrate through the miniature vials it's stored in, but does exhibit phosphorescence as it decays, ensuring a continuous glow at low light levels. While this substance lacks peak brightness, it doesn't fade like traditional luminescence, and sees frequent military use due to its usability with night vision equipment. The tritium tubes used here are clearer than those from the Luminox that featured in my small dive watch roundup, though I'm unsure of the technical reasons behind this. I would have thought it would all be the same if it's the same material. If you're not a fan of tritium, you can purchase these with standard luminescent strips at a lower price point. The GP series is also available with quartz or automatic movements, both of which squeeze into that same compact form factor. The general purpose quartz or GPQ houses a surprisingly good 3-jewel Swiss ETA F06, which comes with a special end-of-life indicator that advances the second hand once every 4 seconds when the battery starts to run out to let you know it needs changing. It also has a quick-release rubber hatch for easy battery changes, although it will take a bit of prying with a screwdriver. This also limits the water resistance to just 3 bar. The automatic, listed as the GPM or General Purpose Mechanical, features a Seiko NH35, which is pretty impressive considering the extremely diminutive proportions that we're working with. Both options are made of a composite carbon fiber reinforced polymer, which feels like a higher-end version of the similarly constructed Luminox diver I mentioned earlier. This material is lightweight and is more scratch resistant than the likes of your lower-end Casios. It'll also survive well against impacts. Nevertheless, it doesn't feel nearly as luxurious as most metallic options. This fiber shell does have an extremely matte finish, making certain colorways like this desert tan version look very distinctive. All of these 34mm field watches thankfully come fitted with sapphire crystals, which will effortlessly prevent all scratches and scrapes on the top. Despite being well sized, the stock bands are flimsy. A strap upgrade is probably warranted, though my spring-well tool didn't seem to budge these, meaning you could be limited to pass-through straps if you can't get them off. Maybe these are fixed in place, I can't really tell. If you want to head a bit more upmarket, then you can grab a 39mm stainless steel reissue version of that GPM. This has a unique squared lug style and a manual wind ETA 2801 mechanical movement inside. This piece feels far more substantial than the previous options, and is smaller than the titling suggests, with that 39mm stated size actually including the crown. This one's more like 35.5mm wide, but wears similarly to I'd say a 38mm watch due to those bolt straight lugs. The GPM reissue also features a screw back, improving the water resistance to a more respectable 5 bar, and once more, looks absolutely beautiful. It's up to you whether those factors are worth double the retail price of the 34mm versions, but this one had to bag a place on this list. The quality control across all 3 of these Marathon units is also noteworthy, with all performing particularly well under macro examination. If you want a genuine military spec watch in your collection, any of these Marathons will scratch that itch. If you want to save some money too, the brand sent over an exclusive discount code for Ben's Watch Club viewers. You'll find it on screen and in the video description. Don't forget to use it if you fancy one of these attractive tool watches. I'll do the same if any other brand has got a discount code too. Another brand that emphasizes durability at a lower price point is Bertucci. This American brand has some intriguing designs with thick lugs, unbreakable fixed spring bars, and recessed crystals, all designed to survive hard impacts. They produce a plethora of variants on this base design, including numerous colors, sizes, and materials. The best choices for those with small wrists are the 36mm steel or polycarbonate watches. They even make some watches designed for women that come in at an even smaller size if you wanted something tiny. Unfortunately, the titanium models currently only start at 40mm and up. The steel version I featured recently is still a worthy contender, with a decent strap, a screw-down crown, and a comforting, weighty feel despite the quartz movement. On the wrist, it feels more like a 38mm watch due to the wideness of those lugs, though they do curve sharply, preventing substantial overhang even on my arm. Unlike the Marathons, this one only uses a mineral crystal and has inferior finishing. Still, for substantially less money, it's a tempting proposition nonetheless. Little-known Chinese micro-brand Baltany has some of the finest hidden gems in this category. Purchasable through commerce giant AliExpress, they predominantly focus on retro watches, with some bearing suspicious resemblances to other watches on this list. Their modernised military pieces are the ones truly worth considering, with many offering beautiful mid-century vibes contained within appropriately sized cases. Their best-selling models are those based on the Dirty Dozen watches, which were the first military watches adopted by the British Armed Forces. These custom pieces, initially produced by 12 different brands during the Second World War, had to meet a strict set of specifications that resulted in comparable styling across the board. While production of the originals ceased many decades ago, the design lives on through enthusiastic microbrands like Baltany, with the cream dial automatic being a particular standout. This boasts a stunning glistening finish that adds an extra dimension to what would otherwise be a rather basic design. I'm yet to see another brand provide such a unique take on the Dirty Dozen aesthetic, though this could yet be a direct copy of something that I'm unfamiliar with. As is commonplace with these Chinese specials, there are just so many watches it's hard to keep tabs on. Baltany not only offers this style in multiple colours and with different movements, but they also have a small Hamilton W10 clone that could easily fill the same void. They all have brushed steel cases and domed sapphire crystals that belie their low price tags. The stock straps are decent, so they should hold up well over time. Even the practical clamshell packaging is excellent, both protecting the watches and doubling as a travel case, while occasionally housing extras like additional straps and toolbars. While it's good, the travel case isn't quite as good as that featured with the next watch on our list. The oldest aesthetic on this list is available in the form of the eccentric Vario 1918 Trench. Vario is a small independent company run by a Singaporean husband and wife team. There's a charming About Us video on their website, and I guarantee after watching, you'll feel enthused to try one of their watches. It's not one of these gimmicks like MVMT.
This is more than just a watch, it's a movement.
A movement we want you to be a part of.
Just how good are their watches though? Well, they certainly have character. The 1918 Trench in particular comes in an array of vibrant colours that look like highly saturated versions of those you'd probably find in the early 20th century. I opted for one with the prominent orange faux patina luminescence, which manages to look simultaneously clean and classic, like something straight out of a period war drama. While the case finishing is only reasonable given the simple styling, it is nonetheless very faithful to the original trench watch look, with circular housing akin to pre-war pocket watches. Luckily, Vario doesn't use ancient materials to accomplish this. The trench is constructed of modern 316L stainless steel and features a double-domed sapphire crystal atop, which provides clarity at any angle. It also has a grippy screw-down crown and a good 1080M water resistance rating to keep you covered. If you're after something even more convincing, these watches are purchasable with a brass case instead, which will exhibit some natural patina. I'm unsure how well the camera will capture this, but the enamel dial is immaculate in person. It gleams gorgeously in any lighting condition without impacting the face's legibility, and provides a wonderfully premium touch that suits the theming to a T. My only real gripe with it is I think it is a fraction tilted clockwise. The handset is very clean for a watch at this price, while the vintage typeface used on the numbers helps it look just like a doppelganger of many real trench watches that saw action during the First World War. Even the Art Deco style brand logo is in keeping with the era that Vario is targeting. Within is a Miyota 82S5 automatic movement, a variant of that in the Bulova mentioned at the start. It has the same pros and cons, meaning the rotor is quite noisy, but it is reliable overall. It comes fitted on a surprisingly good bund strap. I'm generally not a fan of these, as they usually extend well past the width of the watch, though this one is among the slickest I've come across, and doesn't make the overall package feel too clunky on the wrist. The quality here is leagues better than the garbage band provided with the Fossil watch I reviewed a while back. With a supple feeling and natural graining, it's no surprise that Vario started as a strap company. They've also got some intriguing accessories available, including the excellently designed storage pouch that the watch came in, and large fabric wraps that can store an array of watch bands. There's even a crazy shrapnel protector for the 1918 Trench and Medic. You can place this optional extra atop the watch to complete the look if you're a real military history fanatic. These extras highlight just how customer focused and watch obsessed Vario is as a company, which is refreshing in light of the cash grabs I frequently encounter in this job. A late addition to this list is Vaer. This brand's been on my radar for some time, though due to a communications mix-up, I only recently received this one, so I'll give you a quick overview of my first impressions. This American brand assembles its watches in-house, and often receives praise for their build quality and original designs. They have several 36mm field watches that might be worth looking at on their site, including the C3 Tradition that they sent across, which has a vintage vibe with darker lume. I really enjoy the arrowhead-shaped markers and the slim case. They also sell modernised versions with fun, brighter colours, which could be ideal if you're looking for something a bit different. Most ranges are available with either a quartz or automatic movement, the former being predominantly American-made by a company called FTS, which is rather interesting. In addition to the default silicone band, there's also a variety of secondary strap options, including bracelets and Horween leather, which alter the purchase price. That custom bracelet is actually decent for the money, and while it doesn't sit as flush with the case as I'd have hoped, the quality is excellent, and it even comes with loads of micro adjustment holes as well as quick release tabs. The other two options that I've tried are also among the best on this list. Personally, I prefer this on the basic silicone strap, which is extremely comfortable. They didn't skimp out considering it's a stock option, as it's surprisingly got a secret bulge within the keeper that slots into a rectangular hole at the tail end, securing the strap in place. A feature that we slim-wristed folk can definitely appreciate. There's nothing uglier than having the leftovers flapping around. The watch as a whole is very slim, at only 9.3mm, including the domed crystal, and the smooth curvature makes this one of the best contoured options you can buy, with few visible gaps. The fit and finish are a step above the similarly priced Timex, Bulova and Baltany watches, though this is only the quartz version of the C3. For the automatic, you will be moving towards Hamilton territory in terms of price. That being said, this watch is more compatible with smaller wrists like mine, and it both looks and feels better than I anticipated when looking at the online listings. I definitely want to check out more of their offerings in the future. If this one surpasses or falls short of my expectations in the long run, I'll probably let you know in a follow-up video. There's yet another option that may be worth exploring. I guess you could call it an honourable mention, as I haven't tried it yet, so take everything I say with a pinch of salt. The Cabot Watch Company has a prestigious history supplying military personnel since the 1970s. Their full repertoire includes the likes of dive watches and chronographs, though the G10 Field Watch is their best-known flagship, being the first quartz watch officially issued to Her Majesty's forces in 1980. It's still in production today and remains relatively unchanged, with a design that includes a domed acrylic crystal, a steel case, and a 5-bar water resistance rating. To be honest, I'm unsure it's worth the steep $300 asking price of the base model, considering some of the other bargains featured on this list, though I could be wrong. If you want a watch that's seen real-world combat, the CWC G10 has that pedigree. You could always pick one up used, as there are many available. Seeing as though you've got a small wrist, check out the video on screen now, where I cover the best dive watches for people like us. That one was a lot harder to make. It's time for you to find out why.